double those dice.
Welcome to the Double Those Dice YouTube channel.
Hey.
This is our 20th session, brought back to the... yeah, this is the... yeah, I forgot I bought you that. Yeah, so we've done 20 sessions now, and we've done it a bit backwards with the fact that we didn't record the first 10 sessions, and then decided that this group was too good to not share the chaos and just bits and bobs that go on this campaign, that we thought we'd share it with everybody. And so today we're going to go through and just recap what's happened in the first 10 sessions so that everyone is brought up to speed. So first of all, I'm just going to go through and explain the world that these characters are in. So the story takes place on the world of Anesta, which is a lonely planet in the sky, just the one, with its single moon, with the multiple and multitude of gods that control that world. These gods control multiple thriving civilizations of many races, all praying to different gods, granting the gods power. That's how the more prayers they get, the more powerful the gods. Now, back 2,000 years ago, some evilly aligned gods tried to rule the world by constantly bringing in wars, chaos and destruction. So one of the gods decided that to get around this, to stop the gods from actually being able to interfere with the planet, they decided to shrink it. However, one of the evil aligned gods managed to control the sea, stopped the sea from shrinking, and it caused the world to flood, leaving 99% of the surface underwater and killing thousands, all plant life, anyone that was on sort of low-lying lands. And the only bits that would survive were the mountain tops that were throughout the country, or throughout the world, but only leaving a few where we are now. 2,000 years later, the world has recovered with these pockets of civilizations on these mountaintop islands. And that is where we bring in our story. So we started in the ring town of Iffle, a quaint portside town on the Isle of Brink. And the first person to enter the town was Blue.
Hello.
Played by the lovely Luke there. Luke, can you describe the Goliath form of Blue?
Yeah. So, Blue is a big, 8 foot, probably 18, maybe 20 stone, big boy. It's a Goliath. He's very blue in his colour. He's a druid, so he wears lots of vines and just general druidy things. He's out exploring the world, just being a guy, trying to help people if he can, and if he can't, just hang out, have a good time. Tries not to fight, but maybe some people drag him into fights sometimes, and that's okay, things change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something to experiment. And I think I joined by helping the little old lady carry a sack of spuds through town.
You did. She was hobbling around with this sack of spuds, and you helped her bring them into her house before heading off into the centre of town. The second and third person to enter the town was our character's Saber, a is it a Ladrin? Ladrin, yeah. Ladrin, and our character, one of the characters that we are unfortunately missing from the campaign now, but Caster Biscuit.
Yeah, little Caster Biscuit.
Caster Biscuit, a dwarven friend of Saber.
Yes.
So Saber, can you describe? Well, Alex, can you describe Saber?
Saber, yeah. So as you said, he's a Ladrin. He's a cleric ranger. Just sort of average build and height and everything like that. He's worships the god Tyr and is on a quest set by his temple elders to him and his partner, I guess, in adventure of Castor Biscuits.
I don't know if it's partner in adventure or partner in crime sometimes.
Just partner, my lifelong heterosexual partner.
We've gone through many tears.
We did go through lots of tears together, we decided that we would, on our quest, we would pick up some, I guess, sideys on the way and try and level up a bit and make some more friends and see if we could convert some people along the way.
Cool.
So far, it doesn't think it's
Not been good. It's really gone badly.
And in the dimly lit tavern of the sinking ship, we met another character, a very well-built, appearing human figure, or human woman figure, of Z, or Zyania, played by Andy. Could you describe Z?
Sonia Z, she is a big girl. She's 6'5", maybe a bit more. On a good day, she's 250 plus pounds. She's a big girl, and she confidently walks around as a big girl. She's got flame red hair, long. She's got breastplate armour, and she carries around her greatsword on her back, and she's just out in the world trying to find something and someone, and see what happens along the way.
And Tan, obviously you joined us a little bit later on in the campaign, so I'm going to wait until we get to your character to bring somebody in. So what I'll do is I'll just recap what you guys were doing up to as far as I can. You ventured to the sinking ship, and you all had your little slips of paper or word of mouth that there was a captain in the sinking ship, this pirate ship that seems to be picked up out of the sea and plonked on the side of the harbour. And this captain had he was offering some coin for a simple job. So you all flocked to that tavern to meet this captain. You saw in a booth was this captain, tricorn hat, red leather duster on, boots up on a table, smoking a pipe and drinking a pint of ale, next to a tabaxi woman, his first mate, and I will give bonus points to who can remember her name.
More. Little kitty cat, bonus points, everyone gets inspiration.
You saw Law, his first mate. He offered you a simple job to help him move some goods from his ship in Grink to the Isle of Flack, another southern isle in this group. And he offered you 5 gold pieces now and 20 gold pieces on your arrival in Flack for the safe delivery of his goods. He also gave you the bar for the evening. He had a tab that he was running. He was giving you beer and all manner of things, food, bed.
Saber didn't go well for Saber.
No, it didn't. Saber got very drunk very quickly.
He did.
And there was something else that happened in that tavern.
There was?
Yeah. Z was arm wrestling for... when we joined Z was arm wrestling a couple of sailors in there, beat them easily.
Of course.
And they wanted a rematch. You refused. You'd already beaten them. It was no sport for you. So you let Castor step up to the plate to take on the challenge. And Castor did win against the sailor. except the sailor accused him of cheating, and a fist fight broke out. And I remember one thing from that fist fight, and it's a shame that Castor is not here. But there was a point where one of the sailors was pinned on a table, Castor was sat straddled upon him, and he shouted the words, I'm going to try and murder this accent. But
Do it.
He shouted the words, have you heard the god Tyr?
That's it.
In the sailor's face.
Yeah.
You guys beat the rest of the sailors up before
I just bear hugged mine.
Yeah, you just bear hugged yours.
I think I attacked Castor more than anyone else.
It's like a true cleric.
Yeah.
You defended your honour before the barkeep hurriedly shoved those sailors
I
out.
remember they were very scared and were like, please don't destroy my bar.
Yep, the tavern owners were. You guys got a good night's sleep, and you headed back. Headed in the morning. The captain picked you up, and you went to the ship, the Rum Whale, a large galley with a figure. The figurehead shaped like a whale holding a tankard with a very drunken expression on its face, which you would call your home for the next week. It was crew, mainly consisted of half-orcs, big, strong, burly fellows that would do the ship's maintenance, run the ship. It's like prepare the sails, do a lot of the steering, things like that, navigation, leaving Captain Corks and Law to do whatever they pleased whilst on the vessel. Whilst on the Rum Whale, Blue, you used a bit of your druidy magic. You found a metal door which you managed to peer through some of the slats. Didn't quite want to open the door, but peer through the slats. And you saw inside there was loads of barrels and crates full of seemingly magical things. Some goodies. What do you think Blue thought those things were?
Nothing to do with me, and very, very important, I assume. So we'll leave those alone and go and find my new friends.
Cool. You guys hang up on the ship. The first day went pretty clean sailing, with later in the evening being pretty stormy. Z, you went up onto the deck to find Law at the helm. You and Law chatted for a while, and Law sort of wanted to show you something. Wanted to show you something that potentially you hadn't seen before. So decided to steer that I know Luke was going to see.
Let's go to the frog video.
Law derailed that.
Oh no.
Law. She began to steer the ship to the east, off course of what she'd already planned. And in the morning, you began to see land, sort of about 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, you began to see land of cliffs that had this weird, these weird totems on, these teardrop shaped totems with blue runes on. You were told by Captain Corks this is the coast of Propia.
He was mad from what I remember. He didn't want to be there.
No, he
Yeah,
wasn't. He
course,
was
right.
very cross that he'd ended up on this course, and was having a pretty deep discussion between him and Law when you guys arrived on deck after the evening. And you guys sort of passed by these cliffs pretty close for about 2 days. You travelled down this coastline. Keep sticking to the coast and just watching the sort of cliff top. Very high, 50 foot, that seem to like sort of wave. So they got like shorter and then larger again. Some of these teardrop totems, they're sort of 8 foot, 9 foot high. Some of them are on the tops of the cliff. Some of them were actually embedded in the cliff as you went past. And I want to ask a question to Z. How was Z feeling that this possibly could have been a pirate ship at one point in his life?
How would he have felt about the fact that it might have been?
It's a tough question because it happened a little while ago.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd bring it up.
Z probably didn't really care because she'd seen everyone that was on board and knew that none of those people were that important to her. And
At that time.
and was just probably interested in seeing Papaya and the totems.
On the third day at sea, Saber, you were at the top. Well, you were on deck.
I was.
You were fairly close to the end of the ship.
I was.
Front of the ship, sorry. And you spotted something glowing under the water. This weird, like, blue mass that keep like flashing up. As you began to shout for attention, the ship moved over this glowing mass.
Yeah.
And there was a big flash of light.
Yes,
A
I
big explosion.
didn't see it soon enough, unfortunately.
As the ship was rocked by a massive explosion of light and was torn in half, throwing you all into the water. You splashed around the water before resurfacing to find that the runway was half of it had already sunk, with half of it above the sea. I think it was Z and Blue. You spotted that Captain Corks was pinned against the back railing of the ship by a large beam and there was a lot of blood coming from his chest. And between you two and Law, you managed to pull that piece of wood away from Captain Corks and get him back to a small pebble beach that was nearby. You sort of swam to shore. Unfortunately, when you got there, it became quite apparent that he had already passed. With Law by his side, you sort of surveyed the area of the stone pool beach in the bottom of the valley. That, as you could see up the beach, went towards a sort of like a path that led towards the top of the cliffs. And for that,
Footprints.
there were footprints. And that is where we finished session 1. That was session 1.
That was session 1 indeed.
So if I remember right, that was supposed to be session 0, and then we just kind of planned
Yeah,
it.
we had planned just to do a little introduction, and you guys went way above what I thought you were going to do. So
I didn't think we were going to do like a mini combat. Guys in the pub.
You flew for it. That was session 1. Session 2, you guys were soaking wet, having just been thrown into the ocean. You have this body of this captain, and Law knelt over him. Law asked you for a minute to grieve for her lost captain, as you guys sort of surveyed to see what was happening. Z, you and Saber went off to look around to see what was on the beach. You found that stream, and you sort of spotted these crates bobbing in the water coming towards you as the tide pulled it in. As Law suddenly grabbed her necklace, and a portal appeared behind her, and she began to drag the body of Captain Corks into the portal. Blue very quickly
Hey, what's that Paul? Hey, where are you going? Hey, why you come back here?
turned into a ferret and jumped through the portal, which you suddenly realised was back at the sinking ship.
What was Law? Law was shouting something as she was going through the portal.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
Wasn't supposed to end like this or something. It wasn't supposed to happen like this
That's
or
it.
something like that.
I'm very impressed that it happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're 100%. She was shouting this wasn't supposed to happen like this as she went through the portal. Blue, the ferret dived through the portal as it shut, leaving Castor, Saber, and Z all marooned on this island. Whilst Blue was surveying the sinking ship again for the second time, strangely, you saw some guards come over, spot the body of Captain Corks and Law, quickly arrest Law, and begin to drag her off to what you could assume was like a small jail, like a town jail. Quick thinking, you followed as a ferret.
I think I ferreted into one of their pockets.
And as they got towards the jail, you climbed into her clothes and managed to get locked inside the jail cell with her. where you proceeded to question her about what was happening. She told you that she would, reluctantly told you that she was paid to drop some people off at the island, just kick them off the boat. She hadn't predicted that there was going to be an explosion. She hadn't predicted that she was going to get lose her captain, and bargained with Blue for her to be released from her chains. In return, you would have her amulet, which she told you to think of where you wanted to go, grab the amulet, and you move there. Back at the beach, you guys saw a portal open in the air, and Blue fall from the sky onto Castor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, breaking the amulet. This pendant.
It would have been really easy to get off the island.
Yeah.
Broke it in your hand, which shattered and you ended up with like little embedded shards. Yeah, still hurts to this day. Little splinters of glass in your hand.
Not supposed to be in there.
Yeah, they're not. You guys then spent some time just looking around the island. You found a small keg of rum. You found a
water skin.
You found a water skin, and you also found a large barrel,
barrel.
which Blue decided to fill up with water about a quarter of the way, because that's all you could get from the stream.
We're carrying this. Every day you get a free barrel.
And carry it wherever he went for the next day.
A box of silver.
Yes, there was
Silver
also.
trinkets.
Yeah, you also found a box of cutlery and plates, all silver, but decided to leave it on the beach to come back to it.
We might regret that later. That might have been like really important
We can go back.
to the story. We're about 3 days away from that now, aren't we?
I can swim.
Okay.
You guys then ventured out from the beach. You ventured up the cliffs and ended up. Ventured up through the valley, up onto the cliffs, and found this strange grey stone plinth with this giant, what would have been 9-foot teardrop totem that had now since cracked in half and shattered. Blue, you sat there for 10 minutes and ritually classed detect magic to find out what was this thing doing. And you found that it had every school of magic in some way on this thing, apart from necrotic. And you took a piece of that with you.
Yeah, boy, still got that.
Still got that little piece of rock that you took with you that was just slightly glowing with magical power.
That's going to kill me at some point, I assume.
And you popped it in your bag. Well,
No, we didn't have
that's the
bags.
thing. You, as you
No,
shipwrecked,
physical.
you, I know Castor lost his shield, or lost his, he lost his bag. You all lost your backpacks. You retained all of your weapons and things, but you lost all your rations, your rope.
Yeah.
My rope.
Yeah, your rope. Pretty much everything you had.
Alchemy kit.
Alchemy
Oh,
kit.
yeah, you lost
all
that,
your little knickknacks
Yeah.
from home. Unless it was in your pockets, you haven't got it anymore. And as you sort of got to the top of the cliff, you saw this sign, little wooden signpost, something you would see at the top of the cliff, like a hiking route, and it literally said the words Myalese. And in the distance, you could just see, you could just see the tops of houses and a bit of smoke coming from way in the distance. Z, you pretty much dragged the party kicking and screaming in the direction of Myalese at that point, but you didn't do it in the traditional fashion of walking on the road like a normal people. You went off into the fields and in the brush. Why were you hesitant about staying on the path?
Well, we knew that no one could have got on this island for as long as we can remember. We've been told for as long as anyone can remember. So how would the locals have felt about strangers being there? We didn't know what... we knew through the footprints that there's certainly different sized people here, but we didn't know what the makeup of the population was going to be. So
True. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that, but Captain Corks told you the legend of Papaya that was seemingly sealed away from anywhere else. No one's been able to visit the island for about 250 years, give or take. And you all heard the legend, but never seen the place before you were marooned there. You walked and walked till nearly, I would say, probably half a day, and you eventually stopped being on a dirt or next to a dirt track and began to see cobble streets appear. The small houses started to dot themselves into existence, and then larger houses, 2-story and 3-story, of stone and then wood began to appear. As you guys began to see people, it was a mixture of humans. There were a couple of Goliaths, Dragonborn, Ganassi. There was a mixture of population in this place as you sort of walked through the town. As you got to like the middle or the midpoint, you saw this golden statue in the middle of a golden fountain. The statue was of 2 figures. One pointing out, holding a spellbook in one of his hands, and the other seemed to be holding a staff. It was also missing its head. This golden statue missing very jaggedly, like its head had been cut off by multiple people standing in this fountain. Blue, Saber, you went to investigate the fountain. Z, you sort of held back.
Oh yeah.
You sort of leant against a tree and sort of surveyed the people to see what they would predict. Make of you. You got a couple of like weird glances, but I think it was more people didn't recognise you than like thought you were a threat. It was all like, oh, you're new.
Well, I jumped in the fountain.
Yeah, I was just saying, Blue got some real funny looks.
You guys investigated the fountain. You saw that one of the plaques underneath the wizard holding a spellbook and pointing was the name Rufus Weatherspike. May your magic be everlasting in our hearts. The other statue, again, was missing its head, and the plaque had been scratched and heavily damaged, so you couldn't read the name. And then Blue, you jumped into the fountain to see what the spellbook said as he was holding. You got some very strange looks from everybody around, and Saber had to literally try and drag you out of the fountain to stop you from doing it. Castor entered the tavern. He went looking for a tavern and found the Golden Hunting Goose, where he discovered that some sort of event was being prepared. Bunting was being put up, kegs were being brought out of the cellar. Looked like some sort of big party was about to unfold as the...
I'm pretty sure he just sort of tried to just get straight in and
he did.
He belonged.
Yeah, he managed to convince the tavern owners, Greg and Leanne, that he was part of the hired help. Was sent down to the cellar to procure the barrels up. It was sort of given free booze in that instance. Blue.
Hello.
You also met a special someone in your life now, I think.
Don't say it like that.
A child. I think she's a big part of your life now. A big part of your life, so I say like that. You met a girl called Delilah. Lovely little, sort of between 8 and 10, 10-year-old girl, who came up to the fountain, stood next to Blue, threw a coin into the fountain and crossed her fingers and closed her eyes. Blue, when you asked what she was doing, she was making a wish. So Blue, you copied. You threw a coin in and then asked what we were wishing for. And she told you that she was wishing that a local boy, would be interested in her. She had a little bit of a crush on a boy called Sam. And during that conversation, it came up that she wanted to get some flowers for him.
Oh, and I'm all about flowers. We could totally just go and, little boy wouldn't like you. You're adorable.
So Blue spent the next 6 hours going around the town trying to collect the perfect flower. You came up with some flowers, but majority was just greenery. But it was the thought. It was
6
the thought.
hours one step.
Yeah, 6 hours well spent. During that 6 hours, Saber and Z, you'd already entered the Golden Goose by this point. You tried to buy some drinks from the bartender, but refused to take your coin.
It was the wrong.
The images on the coins he showed you depicted a castle and a flag, whereas the coins depicted, or your coins depicted a volcano and a sea snake on the reverse. Castor managed to use his newfound employment, should we say, to get you some free drinks.
Yes.
And whilst doing that, Z, you spotted a world map hanging in the tavern. The map was very different and outdated to the ones that you've seen in the past. It seemed to be missing some locations, and some of the locations were named completely different. Leanne and Greg seemed to seemingly spot what was going on and promptly closed the tavern to the public to sort of ask you what you guys were doing here.
Told him everything.
You told them everything about the
told him
shipwreck.
everything.
You did. Saber told them everything.
Told
the
him
truth.
everything. Didn't even
The
think
whole
about
truth,
it.
nothing but the truth.
Just instantly spilled everything. All that stealth work we did on the way in.
Yeah,
Wasted.
Yeah, you told them the truth. And they told you a little bit of a story, didn't they? They did. And this is where it's going to get very monologue-y, because I'm going to read that story now. Because I don't think Tam's actually heard this story. So, tuck yourselves in. So, 250 years ago, in the town of Mylees, a baby boy was born to the Weatherspike family. The boy was named Elvic, and from birth showed great potential in the field of magic. By the age of 10, Elvic had become so powerful that neighbouring villages would travel many miles to visit him. When Elvic was 12, his parents Shelley and Buck had another child, a boy named Rufus. Again, to pure astonishment, the family were blessed with another magical son. Rufus became just, if not more powerful than his brother. Villages around became safer and more prosperous as the magic was helping them greatly. They would come from miles around to visit Mylees to get the magical advice from the two brothers. When Rufus was only 15, he was given the title Arcane Advisor to the King, a title that would not be given out lightly. As time went on, it became more apparent to everyone that Rufus was much more powerful than his brother. With every passing moment, Elvic became increasingly jealous. He became bitter and twisted, searching all the while to find ways to make him a better wizard. Consumed by his jealousy, he disappeared from Papaya, going north to the elven lands of Akala. In Aklana, we only assumed he learnt about other magical powers, but have no idea what these were. He did, however, enslave a lot of people in these lands. With this new power, he had a goal to open a portal to the abyss. In place, he new power. Hang on, I've lost myself now. Yeah, he planned to open a portal to the abyss and fight his way back east, recruiting evil beings along the way. With a small army at his back, he took the fortress of Mountain's Gaze from the dwarves to secure his ground. When King Morgan received word of his treachery, he sent an army to squash his foe. Rufus went ahead to try and convince his brother to stop. Upon arriving, he found his brother casting the ritual to open this gateway to the abyss. The battle was said to have lasted days, but neither brother survived the fight. The fight was so devastating that the ground around the fortress was scarred, leaving a black moat, sucking in all light around three sides of this battle. When the king's army arrived, it found Elvic's army scattering. After this, the totems appeared, trapping everybody inside Papaya. The dwarf closed the borders to all citizens of Papaya, even their own kind, in fear of another attack. The elves cut all ties with Prior to after the death of their kin by Elvic, claiming treason to the king. Myles now celebrates the sacrifice that Rufus made to save us, to save everybody. And why was that so special?
Yeah, Alex, why was that so special?
I looked at Alex dead in the eyes then.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I don't know.
Because
Put me on the spot and I've gone brain fart.
Because the anniversary of the 250 years of Empire
That's
that
it.
same day.
That was
Yeah.
the festival they was doing.
That, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you said that like when they were setting up, but 5 minutes ago. Sorry.
That's alright.
Disappointed.
I've
Leanne-
let everybody down.
No, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. That's why I have all this.
Yeah. No,
And you're working from your brains. It's all
Yeah.
good. It's all good.
Alright.
Leanne and Greg offered you free accommodation that night, saying that you could stay in the tavern in exchange for your help. Castor claimed clean about his employment opportunities and proceeded to keep bringing things out of the cellar as they reopened the Golden Hunting Goose back up to the public. People began to flood in, drinks were flowing, everyone was having a lovely time. Blue, you came back at this point
Yes.
to help out with the festivities, collecting glasses, serving drinks, that sort of thing. At midnight, the townsfolk gathered around the fountain and they set off some sort of magical display of sparks and light in the sky, something that you would look at as a fireworks display.
I helped and I don't think they liked it. I threw a fireball.
You did. Yeah, you sent some magic into the sky. Some people tutted, some people clapped.
Yes.
I don't know which one was the better. And then you guys bedded down for the night in the bar. You, with some bit of privacy, discussed what you wanted to do next. I know there was a time you wanted to go back and collect the silverware and try and maybe sell it, get some money, try and get yourselves back to your homelands. As you guys, fell asleep, you all took turns taking watch in the tavern, looking out the window. Everything was clear. You heard the occasional shuffling of drunken footsteps as people tried to unlock houses and get inside, banging off the side of buildings as they stumbled home. These magical lights, these lanterns that were like oil gas lanterns, just sort of crackling with green flames, sort of illuminating all the streets around. Yes, it was quite a peaceful night. Until Castor Biscuit took the watch. Castor spotted three things that happened. Firstly, all the lights went out at the same time, leaving the town in darkness. Wasn't sure what that meant, if that was just something that happened after a certain time, but yeah. The next thing he saw was a huge burst of flame, and the light from the flame coming from the centre of town, before he saw goblins and some pig-like creature, about 5'5", standing on its hindquarters, rush up the back alley of the Golden Hunting Goose. And that's where we ended session 2. So session 3, you guys, Castor, he alerted all of you to the presence as you all kind of quietly got your gear together, notified Leanne and Greg what was happening, and then stacked up to the front door.
Yes.
Z, you kicked the door in. You did go hunting. You nicked the back of your neck with the blade, which caused it to glow ominously. I can't say that word.
Ominous.
That's the word. As you guys charged the goblins in the alley, decimating them. Blue, you started casting spells from behind Z before transforming into a wolf and started ripping the throats out of the goblins. Saber, you jumped into the fray, firing a couple of spells and arrows from your longbow, as Castor began to bless the party before charging him with his axe. Saber and Castor, you got too close to one of these pig-like creatures, and it squatted and farted. Poisoning Saber, this green gas emitted from it. Didn't seem to emit from its ass, it just emitted from it, just like from its underneath its skin.
All of it.
Yeah.
I think you could taste that it was from whatever else.
It happens.
It did happen.
In retaliation, you cast some fire magic at it.
I did.
And it didn't go down too well, did it?
Nuh-uh.
No, as the gas around the dretch blew up.
Yeah.
Set you, singed you and Cass's eyebrows.
Certainly didn't do us any favours.
You guys rushed up, killing the ones in front of you. You rushed up towards the town square, this fountain, where you saw that a couple of guards that had like quickly got sort of got to attention, was battling some of the goblins and Dretch, as one of the buildings was on fire at this point. Flames coming out of the windows and through the door. Obviously, anybody inside was, pretty gone at this point. You battled your way through. Greg appeared, began firing pot shots from his back door with a crossbow. Missed every single shot. As you dispatched goblins and Dretch.
You always roll so badly when it's NPCs on our
I did, and I don't. I promise you, I'm not fluffing the rolls.
I don't know why they've got a minus 5 on it. Just look at the die.
As you rush forward, Saber, you spotted somebody creeping in the shadows.
Was it the bugbear?
It was. It was a hooded.
Was he in the window, wasn't he?
He was outside the building.
Oh, was he outside?
You saw him, yeah. He had this furry. As he turned, you saw this furry face of a bugbear wearing some sort of weird metal breastplate, black metal breastplate. You also saw a goblin on top of the fountain hacking off the head of Rufus with a hatchet. You already half made it through as he was attacking it, and you guys battled your way towards the fountain. Blue, you at one point turned into a wolf and tried to bite the goblin on the fountain. For him to only take the head off and throw it to the hooded figure, this hooded bugbear, who promptly took it and threw some fire at you.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Didn't know that at all. Before he disappeared into a building. Saber spotted him. Blue, you charged him through the window. And when you attacked him, you were what's the word? Not rebutted. Is it rebutted? Repelled? Whatever it was. You bounced away from him when you attacked him, with him sort of like parrying your blow.
Sad dog noises that I won't make down.
You did make very sad dog noises, or bad noises. You guys, he then...
That's a sad dad noise.
In case anyone needed it.
You guys fought as the this bugbear disappeared. He blew before he disappeared. He blew a horn, and you seem to see the goblins completely switch up their tactics. Instead of attacking, began to retreat as he disappeared. Blue, you tried to chase him, but couldn't keep up as he seemed to just disappear into darkness, and then you would catch a glimpse of him again before he would disappear.
One of these days I'll learn to do that.
Wouldn't it be nice? We can't wait.
Z, you did run over to try and help anybody in the building that was on fire, but unfortunately, the flames were too great at this point for any. If anyone was alive in there, if anyone was in there, they wouldn't be alive. As you dispatch the rest of the combatants, you with only one guard left, who was very gravely injured, you sort of brought the town. Yeah. You brought the town back to the Golden.
Remembered what he did.
Back to the Golden Goose, where you began to sort of treat people's wounds, calm people as everyone was brought up back to the Golden Goose. Blue, on the other hand, you tried to find out what happened to Delilah. As she came running up to you to say that Sam and his family were missing, and somebody else saying that they were spotted retreating away from Miley's in the opposite direction that they came in, heading east.
Thank you.
So you and Z went after it, following those tracks to try and find Sam. But it was also the direction that the bugbear went in. So you chased that down. As Saber and Caster, you retreated to the Golden Goose to help everybody.
Yes.
How helpful was that?
Not.
Okay, well, yeah.
Not helpful at all. I think we deputised some random kid.
After doing something else.
Caster and Saber, you talked to the injured guard captain before realising that he'd been fatally poisoned from a wound in the back.
Oh yeah, no. Did we?
No, there's no we. There was no we.
Caster looking to spare the guard.
That's it.
From
There was
pain.
Yeah, I remember writing this note now. I wrote Caster may be evil in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To spare Castor, to spare this guard captain's life, Castor took it upon himself to
Snuff him.
snuff him out. He suffocated him.
The sleep of the.
Now,
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say
forgot
this.
about that bit. I did forget about that. Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Jesus
You don't
Christ.
need to remember this.
Holy crap.
Right. So, our lawful good characters.
Yes. Oh no, if only we had a cleric. Oh, but a pillow's closer.
Now, I will. I want to stare. I want to look into a camera here, but I can't. I cannot stress enough how lucky Castor was that my rolls were so poor on the perception checks of the villagers around him. Nobody saw Castor do this as he killed the guard captain and then proceeded to walk out of the tavern.
I think we lost him. It's like a surge down the operating room, just like God damn it. Set another one to two.
Now,
Yeah, because
he wasn't without.
Slightly
It wasn't.
metagame, didn't you?
It wasn't. It wasn't without consequences though. As when he walked out the tavern, he was presented not with the outside of this smouldering Myalese, but the inside of of a stone corridor, where he heard the words yelling down this corridor. How dare you pass judgment? Before he was back in Myalese. And that's where we ended session 3. It was session 4.
Oh man, I completely blocked that out.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For good reason.
For good reason, yeah. I was honestly traumatised by the whole.
Yes.
Now, session 4 started with a little bit of a different take on session 4 because we introduced another character who is no longer with us.
Bird.
Yeah.
This stupid bird couldn't even fly.
I do miss Castor and I do miss Rotmus to the core. Ryan and Devon, you will always have a seat at the table if you so wish to come back. We would love to have you back at the table. It was just, Rotmus was a Kenku Necromancer.
Kenku!
I was like, Kenku! Who was brought to the party after conducting a ritual on a ceremonial burial ritual that they do on this Kenku island to allow somebody to pass to the afterlife. This person was a drowned half-orc sailor who seemed to have a weird coin in his coin purse. And when Rotmus touched it, was transported not to, he touched it and was transported to like a lake encased in black. It was sort of just a flat lake, nothing rippling, and then all he could see around him was blackness, as far as the eye could see, where he was told, your boat is ready, Rotmus, only you choose when it arrives. As then Rotmus began to fall, almost drowning in the water, on top of Z. Z, you looked up to see a falling Kenku, wildly flapping its wings with no effect as it landed with you and looking at the floor. There was an awkward conversation upon.
I don't think it was just you and.
It was.
It was just
It
you
was
and
just-
Blue at that
Yeah,
time.
at
wasn't
this point, these two had already wandered off in the direction trying to look for Sam.
That's it.
Now, just to paint a picture in your guys, in everyone's mind, the sun had just begun to rise as Rotmus fell from the sky. Lovely clear day, very chilly, being sort of March time. As there was still a dew, like a morning frost, which was beginning to melt. As Rotmus fell on your head. You had a weird conversation with Rotmus. He had no idea where he was, how he got here, what the thing was that brought him here.
Well, we've all fell out of the sky before, so alright.
And yeah, you guys were having this weird conversation when Z, you spotted a cart travelling up the road. A cart being drawn by a an old horse with a farmer sat behind it, and on the back was some people that Blue probably would have recognised. Sam's family.
Thank goodness.
Sam's family were coming back to Miley's on the back of a farmer's cart. You guys talked to the farmer. And you hitched a ride back to Miley's, arriving.
We marked tree.
You did as well. I did
we
write that down.
saw the
Forgot.
bugbear.
You followed the tracks and found the where the bugbear seemed to have disappeared into the brush, and marked a tree so that you could come back at a later date to find these tracks. Then Rotmus fell on you, and then you picked up the cart. That's my fault.
What did you mark the tree with again? It was
Big B.
a big bee,
Blue.
not a bumblebee.
Yeah.
Turn it round. There.
It's not very good for the
That's
camera, but
I like that.
See if we can get it on this one. But A, B, no.
it's just a pencil.
This is the card that.
Oh God.
Yeah, love it.
That's
Love
so
it.
good.
So you guys, that happened. You guys began to travel back with Sam's, to get Sam and his family back to Miley's in some safety. As Saber, Caster, you were approached by Greg and Leanne to help secure a new town's guard.
That's right.
As everyone had already perished,
That's correct.
unbeknownst to the hand of Caster Biscuit.
Yes.
Saber, you spotted a old man wearing some armor, but were like, he's too old.
Yes.
Do you know what you did?
I think I persuaded him to give up all of his equipment in order to give it to someone younger and more able-bodied.
Do you know what that man's name was?
I don't know. No.
Cool. You gave it to Brian. Brian, you called over Brian, gave him some gear, but you also asked him how competent he was. Do you remember what he did?
No.
He threw a punch at you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You didn't see him throw the punch, and he missed.
Yeah, that's it.
Before you sort of you turned your back, he threw a punch, missed, and then recovered from it, and
You just carried on the conversation like nothing happened.
Yeah, you persuaded him to be the new town guard. He took the equipment and then rounded up a few of his younger friends to go
We
and
saw
start
him
training.
doing push-ups on the way out of town, didn't we? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
In a gang.
Yeah. So you reunited. This is sort of all happening at the same time. As Sam appears, you reunite Sam and Delilah, star-crossed lovers or whatever you want to call them.
Children,
young
puppy love.
Puppy love.
Yeah.
You reunited them, safe and sound, back in Miley's. You decided it would be a good idea to send a message to the king of Miley's to ask for support in terms of the attack. And you were told that about the postal network in Papaya, a Aarakocra postal guild that delivered messages all around the island. Somebody isn't due to turn up at Miley's now for a little while. You saw one appearing when you first appeared at Miley's, but now since gone, probably won't be here for a few days. But you were told Grook would be the next place that they would come to.
Oh, but we just had a bird drop from the sky. Can't we, fly a thing somewhere?
Ryan, Ryan, this is for you. I'm not a bird. I'm a kenku.
Oh, sorry.
Which was the famous
defensive us bullying
defense.
him.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, buddy.
It was all in good spirit. I loved it. It was just amazing.
I was just confused, because, I mean, he's a bird, he looks like a bird, but he's not a bird? What?
As you guys found out about the Aarakocra who deliver parcels and packages and letters around the island, you also spoke to the farmer who told you that there was you asked him about Grook, where he'd just come from. He said it was a small hamlet of just towns, or a small hamlet of houses, on a crossroads, which is Grook, that forms Grook. It's a small tavern, and there's a few houses, crossroads, and there was some trouble with a missing boy. And
That's where it all started.
So many dead children.
There was a missing boy called Alex who'd wandered into the woods and not returned. And you guys decided to take it upon yourself to go investigate.
Yeah.
However, you wanted to take a look at where these bugbear tracks went. So you spent the night in Greg and Leanne's tavern. You spent the day there reassuring the townsfolk before spending the night there and prepping yourselves for the next day. Leanne and Greg gave you a small amount of coin. They gave you 30 gold pieces and then gave you 5 days worth of rations in terms of like cheeses and meats and breads.
Did we get some bags as well?
Yeah, they also Leanne kindly sourced you a mixture of backpacks and leather satchels for you guys to take with you on your journey. And you spent the evening sort of resting and also making copies of a map that they had.
Do we still have?
I didn't make one. So
No, Blue didn't make one, but everyone else did.
Lieutenant Caster.
Did
Like
he?
different.
He became map holder. I feel like he did.
You did all. I do remember you all making copies of this map.
Yeah.
Did we roll well or?
Yeah, you rolled fairly
You rolled
well,
a
yeah.
20. Like,
No, I did. Saber never rolls a 20.
Yeah, you
Saber
guys-
only rolls a 20 for punch bugging.
well, it's to hurt your friends.
Yeah, the next morning you woke up, as you said before, as you exited town, heading in the direction of Brook, you saw these men, 6 of them doing push-ups, led by Brian, stood at the front with a spear and this new plate armour.
It was a bit too small for him, if I remember as well.
It was a little bit too small. He's
Yeah.
quite a big guy,
He was a bit
and
big.
he gave you that knowing
Yeah.
like
Give me a
upwards
good
nod as you walked out of town. You found what you were looking for. These tracks. You followed them to find this circle. You found these circle runes, a large 30-foot across, blackened grass with these strange magical runes around them. These footprints of the bugbear led straight into the middle, and where there was a stone, it had been seared in half.
Yeah.
And whilst investigating these runes, Z, you felt something drop behind you to turn around to see a stick with fingers twice the length of a normal human rake into your back as you were attacked with blights. Some made of vines, some made of needles that fired them across the blade that you were in.
Did I go down in this fight?
Yeah.
Again.
Well, for the first.
I think I've been down in every single fight.
Yes.
You set your sword alight, Z, began fighting them off, screamed for help. Well, not screamed for help, but screamed that there was an attack. Blue, who was casting detect magic, carried on the ritual. Saber,
I'll feel like a minute into it. It takes 10 minutes.
Saber, you went down.
Yes.
And then, before Blue summoned the bear totem and turned into a wolf and rushed in, Z,
You would died on the floor, and I stood over you to protect your body.
Call a teabag what a teabag is.
You got blindsided. You watched Z drop, but only dropped to one knee and proceeded to stand back up again, which was very strange.
Yeah, we've never questioned that.
Oh no.
Looking-
Yeah.
Z
It's
looked,
just awesome.
Totally normal.
Z looked even angrier than normal when she stood back up again. Before Blue yelled at Saber, I put here in my notes healing screams.
I think I said,
As you-
get up, you idiot. What are you doing? Why are you dead?
As Rotmus summoned some magic missiles and destroyed the last of the blights. You then brought everyone back up. The party inspected the circle with a joint effort from Blue's Detect Magic and Rotmus Arcana checks, and also Saber's religion checks. You worked out this was a large teleportation circle. And then when you watched the footprints go in, you saw the footprints come into this circle, and also there was a lot more exiting the other side of the circle.
On
And then-
another note, it's the only time that Zion's curse of binding has worked.
Yep.
I have no history.
And then you had your first level up.
Whoa!
Um,
Something that never happens.
Yes, you leveled
It's
up.
so rare, isn't it?
And that is where we ended session 4. So we are back for part 2 of the recap. We were trying to film it all in one go last night, but one of the cameras died, and it was midnight when we got to at the end of session 4, and we were all knackered. Ready for bed by that point. So we're going to pick up where we left off, which is session 5. You guys had just killed the rest of the lights, trying to decipher the runes around this large teleportation circle. Yeah, exactly. We had a little bit of a level up. We had a level up last session, session 4, and Z, you meditated. While the rest tried to figure out what was going on with this circle of runes. You reached deep down inside yourself and managed to channel some of the anger to allow you to multi-class into Barbarian. Can you just tell us why Z went down that path of Barbarian?
There's a part of Z's past that she doesn't like, and she had to rely on it twice in very quick succession, and she didn't like it. So she then had to channel that rage in hope that she doesn't have to rely on that side of herself again.
Cool. We now have a Barbarian Blood Hunter in the party. The rest of you, Saber and Caster, figured out where the tracks you figured out those tracks coming into the clearing and then going out the other side.
Yeah.
You figured out that seemed to be where the goblins and the bugbear appeared, went one way, and then the bugbear circled back to this teleportation circle.
Yeah.
So you guys headed back to the road and continued on to Grook, arriving. Not arriving the same day. You made camp on that night. As nightfall fell, you guys made camp. Blue, you set yourself on fire to keep watch. I remember that very clearly. Just off the road, Blue decided to catch fire and patrol the road, making sure no one's going to sneak up on you guys in the night.
Flaming giant.
And Saber, you prayed to Tia that night.
Yeah.
For guidance, and had a strange vision of this large stone corridor.
Yeah.
And in this large stone corridor are stone benches sort of set into the wall. And on the opposite side of the corridor was Caster Biscuits, sat there on a bench, head sort of slumped on his chest, but ghostly.
Yes.
Completely spectral. And you sort of awoke in the morning with no extra inkling of what that was at that point. You last on watch, woke everyone up, got everyone to start finding breakfast. I remember Rotmus was just digging up the floor trying to find worms at this point. I think you found some apples on an apple tree that you took with you. And you continued on the journey towards Grook. Getting there sort of late afternoon. This small hamlet of 3-4 houses and this tavern. Can anyone remember what the tavern was called?
Yeah, I totally can. The Dusty Trumpet Tavern.
Well done. You got your notes up, haven't you?
No.
The Dusty Trumpet. You guys went inside this two-story stone building. And had a chat with the barman inside. But before that happened, as you approached the Grook, I missed this, but you walked into Grook, you saw somebody flying in to the Dusty Trumpet. And
They were like, Rotmus, why can't you do that?
And he was like, I'm a Kenko!
a Aarakocra in a red waistcoat, red hat, which I have written the name down.
Robbie.
He was called Robbie, yeah.
We talking about the name. Is it like a fez?
Yeah, it has a proper name to it. I did write it down.
Bunny.
List all the hats quick.
Snapback. Kipper.
Pie.
Pie?
A kepi.
Pork pie.
Kepi.
Kepi.
K-E-P-I. Yeah, kepi hat. It's like a weird military hat. And yeah, he was wearing that. He introduced himself as Robbie, the Aarakocra. Yeah, Robbie. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I remember.
Yeah, Robbie. And gave you a flyer for the Mistbrook Battle Forge. It was a lovely green flyer with big gold lettering on it, and it seemed to, like, as you turned the image, you could read it from any angle. It was like one of those holographic sort of photos you get.
Sort of scratchy surface.
Yeah. It read, the Mistbrook Battle Forge invites you to the first games of the season with forges in Breeze, Rapwood and Speckletop. Magical duos face off against mighty opponents with a chance to win the prize pot of 10,000 gold. Please see the registration office for entry information, terms and conditions and safety regulations. And he handed you this flyer, told you to check it out. Castor decided to ask Robbie to send a letter for him to the king. The details of which were very basic and signed by the legend of Castor Biscuit. Robbie then told you he would take it to Breeze. That was his next drop, and then from Breeze it would go off to the capital. You chatted for Robbie for a little while before he left.
Didn't Robbie tell us to be nicer to Rotmus as well?
He did tell you to be nicer to Rotmus.
Stop being so mean to Rotmus.
Yeah,
which we all ignored.
Yep, you did.
I wonder why he didn't come back.
Yeah.
Listen, Blue was just confused.
Yeah, then you went into the Dusty Trumpet. You found this weird guy in a weird cloak with a massive pipe with a huge ball at the end and was blowing copious amounts of faintly purple smoke into the air as you walked in. You got drinks. Z and Blue sort of hung around outside because of the smoke. And Sabre, you approached the bartender. You ordered drinks, tried to get rooms for the evening, paid for the rooms, and then you saw this flyer on the pillar of the bar about a missing boy called Alex. It said that he'd gone into the woods to find his dad. Oh, sorry, it was a missing poster just asking for help.
That's right.
Now, when you talked to the barman, Blan, he told you that Alex had gone into the woods to find his dad Phil, and 2 days later his dad returned with no knowledge of his son going into the woods. His dad Phil worked at a lumber mill inside the forest, and Alex had gone there to deliver or to take his tools with him he'd forgotten, but never made it to his dad seemingly. You got everyone into the tavern and told them the news, and you guys decided that it would be a good idea to go and speak to his parents to find out more information. So you headed off. Blan told you which house it was. You went off, spoke to his mum, Enid, and she gave you as much information as she could about Alex, telling you where the location of the lumber mill was and rough distance. Blue also asked for an item of clothing from Alex's of Alex's. I think it was probably because you could wild shape him.
It's for tracking, yeah.
For tracking. Very clever. Very good idea. And you took that. By this point, it was nearly dark. The party decided, some members of the party decided that it would have been a good idea to do this at first light. So they went back to the tavern to drink and then have a good night's kip. Except somebody had different ideas.
I mean, this is a missing child, and it's like, let's just have a little kip then. What about the kid? He can't have a kip. He's probably scared to death.
So, Blue,
Hello.
you decided that you wanted to go and pick some flowers.
Yes, what a perfect time.
To go and pick some flowers for the boy's mum. And in the process, wild shaped into a horse and headed off in the direction of the deep wood.
Just after meeting the eyes of, I think, Castor, was it?
It was
we locked eyes.
Yeah, you locked eyes as you galloped past, running down as a horse. This blue
horse?
Yeah, any time that blue wild shapes, it is in the colour of his
Lizard blue, light blue skin.
Yeah, any creatures he turns into, fur, scales, things like that, all are blue. As he disappeared into the woods, Saber, then you went inside the tavern, told them what had happened, and you guys raced after Blue to try and stop him or catch up with him.
You fools.
Yeah.
Blue,
We're never going to catch him.
Hello.
you ran for an hour before. You ran for an hour before finding some strange cart tracks leading off the road. These two very thin tracks, if it's not like a cart as in a horse and cart, this looks like a hand cart. This is the size we're talking about. And some footprints of what looked to be a humanoid figure. And another set of smaller footprints you would guess belong to a child at this point. And you followed these tracks. And eventually wound your way through the wooden undergrowth to find a large rock, talking maybe 50 foot across, 20 foot high, with a large crack in it, and the tracks go straight up to this crack in the rock, which you can just see through. You decided to, at this point, send a message to the party to tell them what you found. So you put your head in a hole in the ground and found a snake
Yes.
that came up. And you told... Do you remember who you told to give the message to?
I needed to find a bird man that had like wings, and I was confused because he can't fly, but neither can the snakes. That's perfect. I was like, here we are, big rock. Come now or don't. Unless you're sleeping, I guess.
So yeah, you sent the snake on its way, which slithered into the undergrowth. At this point, the party had just caught up to the edge of the cart tracks, following Blue's horse hoof prints in the ground. Then rushed into following these cart tracks. You got about 10 minutes in before a snake appeared in front of Rotmus, scaring Rotmus, nearly giving him a heart attack. As Kenku don't like snakes. As you guys rushed into through the undergrowth, then off where the cart tracks were, and met up with Blue, who at this point had tried to squeeze through the crack in the rock and got himself wedged. Z, you pulled Rotmus out. You pulled Blue out of the crack in the rock. As Rotmus found a little square tile set into the rock, which he pushed with his talon, and the crack in the rock got bigger, enough for a human to walk through.
What about a good life?
Yeah, you can do it just. And as you guys entered, you saw some pretty horrific sights. As you walked into this rock, it seemed to be like two layers, where like a bottom section hollowed out, and then there was like a ledge, and on the ledge, on an X, wooden cross, like a wooden X, was Alex, body of a child, 13-year-old boy strung up by his wrists, his chest cavity completely splayed open, ribs turned the wrong way. And at that point, you could just about see darkness in his chest, as you heard growling coming from around you in the darkness. And that's where we ended session 5. So we then didn't join in at that point, did we? We went somewhere else. We were nowhere near Papaya when we started session 6. As we saw somebody running at full sprint. Another Eladrin lady running at full sprint through a forest, nicking her arms and face on roughage as she ran through, sprinting towards a cream-coloured building that seemed to go around, single-storey building that seemed to go around a giant tree in the middle of a clearing. Tan, would you like to describe your character?
Yes, okay. So Kaya is a female Eladrin ranger who has lots of sort of war paint-like tattoos that sort of go around her face or down her arms or around her back. If you can see that, but you can't see that. And she's sort of got the tattoos at this point, sort of a slightly gold metallic colour. Sort of reflects a little bit the sort of metallic-y gold of her sort of hair as well, and the slight tinge of her eyes as well, which you sort of can't tell if they're green or gold or whatever they are, but probably at this point slightly more gold than anything else. Good point, mate.
Yeah. He's right.
And yeah, at this point she's running and she's probably a little bit freaked out.
So you were running into in the direction of the Warm Nest Tavern, this circular building around a tree, because you knew at this point it was your best chance of refuge. You'd been living in the cellar of the Warm Nest Tavern for about 2 weeks, where the couple who owned it were keeping you safe. As you heard howling from behind you in the distance of the forest, you rushed in, ripped open the cellar doors, jumped in and bolted them, sort of pushing the wood down on the inside. In the gloom you could see the central tree and the roots beginning to grow into the ground. As you sort of hid and listened to the barking and snarling of dogs, there was a loud banging on the front door of the tavern above you, and you heard the muffled footsteps of people walking down to the door. Then there was shouting. There was a sickening bludgeoning sound as someone would hit the floor above you, as dust came through the ceiling. Fearing the worst, you sort of stood there as the tree began to split open and green lights began to spill into the cellar as you heard footsteps moving around upstairs. As petals and small leaves came out of that light, it's almost been blown by a wind that was no presence, and formed into a young girl who offered you her hand and said to Kaya, "Find it, you need the amulet." As you took her hand, the petals pulled you through into this tree. You felt like you were being squeezed as you fell out of another tree onto your knees to look up and see a giant rock, a crack and a giant Goliath inside the hole. As you guys, the rest of you, entered combat with these wolves. Yes. As you entered combat, there was a loud bell toll as Rotmus began to fade into nothingness. And again, we unfortunately lost another player to just life, I think. Sad to see you go, Ryan. Again, we would love to have you guys back at the table anytime you can make it.
I'll try not to bully you about not being a real bird.
As you guys enter combat. Saber, you were unperturbed by the disappearance of Rotmus. and just launched into loads of shots at wolves. Z, you started lobbing hand axes at the wolves as well, killing one of them. Blue, you summoned your bear totem to strengthen the party before attempting to try and communicate with the wolves.
You don't want to do this, guys.
Telling them to surrender. However, the wolves refused. They were more worried about their alpha than your presence. Castor rushed in to join the battle, but couldn't connect with any of his swings. As Kaya, from outside the rock, you seemingly seem to paint one of the wolves in a series of weird squiggles, hunters marking the creature, before firing a shot at the one Saber was firing at. Saber, you just saw this wolf go down and thought, well, you're the only bow wielder here. It must have been me. Yeah.
I decided that.
Oh, it was a great shot that day. Yeah.
Didn't even need to fire that one.
Yeah. Just thought about it.
Yeah, remember that. More wolves turned up, and more wolves were taken out with a combination of Saber and Kaya's arrows, Castor's axe, and Z's greatsword. Blue, you successfully grappled one of the wolves, but unsuccessfully negotiated their surrender as another wolf attacked Blue, which bit your forearm quite badly. You went down as a large white wolf appeared from the ledge above.
Then what happened?
You know what?
Saber.
Then what happened?
Then what?
Then what happened? I saved your life.
I don't want to talk about it.
Saber, you
Call me
used
Jack
one of
Clever.
your guiding bolts
I did.
at the Alpha as Z beheaded another wolf and went after the Alpha as well. Castor used Lay on Hands to revive Blue.
What was that, Saber?
It's later. It must have been later. I definitely.
Whilst
I know what I know. It was later. It's coming up. Just pay attention. It's about to happen. Yeah.
Kaya, you carried on marking these wolves in these weird tattoos and taking shots at them as you sort of like came into the cave. Saber, you managed to explode the Alpha with another guiding bolt, which just tried to eat it and exploded, showering you all in blood and visceral bits. Saber and Castor went to meet Kaya as you finally realised that there was somebody else in the cave and began to talk to Kaya, whilst Blue and Z investigated the body of Alex strapped to the X wooden block. As you sort of approached and investigated, you saw that his legs from about the knee down, maybe a little bit higher, were missing, but it looked like they'd been gnawed off by the wolves. You study the body to see that Alex's heart, lungs, intestines, all of his internal organs were missing and replaced with this black powder sort of substance. It all like looked like he'd been charred or burnt or like rubbed with coal. That's the sort of consistency inside. His rib cage completely splayed open, and there was a small pot of black powder, sort of like a mortar and pestle, on the floor next to Alex's body. What did Blue do?
What else? Oh, it's a bit weird. I wonder what that tastes like.
Blue, you put your finger in it. It smelled like daffodils.
That's probably a good sign.
As you popped it into your mouth, you took a very substantial amount of necrotic damage and immediately dropped.
I died.
Yeah, Saber, you rushed forward to stabilise Blue and save his life.
Getting me a bit safe.
As you had to then wait and take a short rest before Blue could recover from his injuries. So an hour went past and Blue finally woke. His eyes began to flutter as he woke up. You cut the body down from the X and wrapped it up in a cloak and proceeded to carry it back to town.
That was your first child murder, Chris.
That was my
How did it
first.
feel? The first of many, I assume.
You never know.
So far.
Where am I? I've lost myself there.
Sorry. I know you like to find yourself by killing children. So.
You discussed on the journey back with Kaya how Kaya got here. How Kaya got here.
She know the legend of Tyr?
Yeah.
And you also told her that how you guys got here and the totems had broken. Z spoke to Blue and told Blue off big time for his actions because they were reckless in future to speak to the group about doing things like that.
Not allowed to run away anymore.
Yeah. Kaya, on your way back to the to Grook, your arm got very, very itchy, and very, very painful. You dropped back from the party to look at which you knew what it was, and saw your blink dog tattoo, your magical tattoo that moves around your body at free will. And it's just a puppy, this brown coloured fur, big pointy ears, which was pinching a piece of your forearm between its jaws and was just gnawing on it. And when you sort of unfurled your clothes to see, he looked up at you, smiled, wagged his tail, blinked through a portal, and came back with a very strange necklace around its neck, which I have a picture of, because we've got pictures now, which I forgot to put in the first video, so I will go through and add these in when I can. But a picture of an amulet with golden flecks of light that came out of a central point in the from the middle of the amulet. You saw this blink dog with this around its neck. That's mine, bud. Thanks, though. You managed to hide this from everybody. Wait, what are you doing?
Your toy's over there. Go play with your toy.
You managed to hide this from everybody and rejoined, caught up with the rest of the party again. And you guys brought the body back to Grook. At the edge of Grook, you sort of had a bit of a meeting of what you're going to do with the body. At this point, light is beginning to come up as you approach Grook. Blue, you turned into a badger.
Yep.
And decided you were going to dig a grave.
Yep.
At the edge of town.
I know what's best.
Shoveling ground.
Castor sacrificed his shield to cover up the wound on Alex's chest, Z, Kaya, Saber, and Castor delivered the body back to the parents. Obviously, also Phil answered the door, but Saber and Castor, you told him that the wolves had killed Alex, and took out the section of this wooden cross, and he might have been killed by some sort of ritual or magical purpose or something. There was something wrong. You just sort of decided it was better to tell him about the wolves. Phil didn't believe you, and Z promised to tell him the full story in the following day, but to let them put the mother and father grieve for their child. They proceeded to take the body and begin to build a pyre to burn the body. Z, you posted up outside the tavern, leaving them to it, but sort of watched and got some very strange glances from the locals. You assumed you were intruding, so went into the tavern, where you guys had a drink, had a sit down, had a rest, before Saber realised that actually you hadn't slept in the beds last night and you'd paid for them, so you wanted the beds for that evening as well. There was a heated debate with the bartender who refused to give you until you eventually persuaded him to.
I feel like Kaya sort of helped with that as well.
Yeah, Kaya did help with that. And Castor and Saber got very into some music.
I think we were
somewhat affected by some smoke.
Yeah, there was a smoky band stood in the corner performing a very good jig, and Castor and you were just wanted to dance.
It was so good.
As the rest of you stood looking at what they were looking for, staring at what they were looking at, and there was nothing there. It turns out the guy in the corner blowing the smoke out of his pipe was some sort of magic, and it was making you dance along to a band. Bland put a quick stop to that, and you guys sort of spent some downtime in the tavern. About midday, Z and Blue, you head out to pay your respects to the family. And when you returned, you had a sort of talk about the Mistbrook Battle Forge, deciding it'd be worth checking out in Breeze once the mourning period for Enid and Phil was over. What did you guys expect to see at the Mistbrook Battle Forge?
I wasn't sure if it was going to be magic or if it was just going to be like a gladiatorial sort of thing. So I was ready for it. I was happy to go in, but
I think I assumed it was like, magic fights, like Battle Forge could, just... well, if you're not magic, I would have thought you'd have like a disadvantage unless, you just tonk.
yeah.
Cool. You had an early night, knackered from the previous day's events and after being up all night chasing Blue. You guys, took a well-deserved rest.
Got to use that beds you paid for. I didn't, sorry.
Saber and Castor, when you went to bed, you were sharing a room, you decided to pray to Tyr, didn't you?
Yeah.
And as you prayed, you both had a joint vision of this stone corridor. You could both see each other in this spectral form, except the corridor at the end, the doors, these oaken doors, opened. And you stepped inside to see the biggest room you've ever seen. A giant wooden writing desk in the centre, to the point where you can't see the top as you stare at this thing. As you approached it, you were lifted to the same height and walked onto the desk to see the forearms of someone pale on the desk. There, in front of it was a large piece of parchment, and in front of that parchment was these set of golden scales, giant golden scales, the sort of thing you could put a car on either side of it. You saw on the scales that in words in multiple languages, on the left-hand side were words of like joy, pride, courage, beauty, and lots of different words, all corresponding with the good side of life and the good people's good sides. And on the other side, you saw words written in all manner of languages of greed, jealousy, theft, and pain. And you stood there for a moment to see the body or a version of Alex that you hadn't seen. His body was intact. He looked happy. He was smiling. As he was placed in front of the scales, you saw multiple red rubies fall onto the left-hand side, weighing the scales down massively, as a single emerald fell onto the right. As Alex began to sink through a portal in the floor, you heard birds cheeping and the sound of a wind chime as Alex disappeared. A booming voice from somewhere above, way above you in the darkness, said, I'm proud of you, Castor. Your sacrifice must not go in vain. As you looked over at Castor to see a buckler shield appear on his arm with a golden set of scales on it embossed on the front. When you guys woke from your vision, Castor was still holding this new buckler shield. Yeah. And that's where we ended session 6. Session 7, Castor and Saber. You were in like awe of Castor's new shield.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. You guys met back up in the bar after a very well-deserved rest. Breakfast was served, which was eggs and very burnt toast, which Kaya was very disgruntled by scraping the crumbs off onto the plate, or scraping the burntness off of the toast.
I'll remove these olives. I'm going to eat them all.
You asked Blan about Breeze, asking him what's there, and he told you about a farmer he knew from way back.
Do you want them?
Can anyone remember the name?
Cheers.
A farmer. Blan told you about a farmer that he knew from a long time ago.
Gregson.
What's Greg?
Greg, something like that.
Greg Liam down.
There we go.
Crag.
Crag.
Liam Down. Close though. He knew a farmer, Crag Liam Down, who used to come into Brook very occasionally, but now a bit too old, and still stays on the outskirts of Breeze. Said if you pass in, say hello. And you took that advice on board. Blue outside, because you always sleep outside, don't like to sleep in a tavern. You find a raven in a tree, and cast Animal Messenger to ask to deliver a message to a certain special someone in your life.
Well, we just had a death of a child, so, the balance and the scales and all that, so, let's bring a little bit of life to another child back at my Elise.
Yeah.
A little bit of Delilah. So
Yeah.
we sang her a little song.
You did. You sang her a little song, told her that you were going to Breeze, and to be good, I think was what the basically just be
I know
careful.
it if you want me
to. You can sing it if you...
Hey there, Delilah, what's it like in my Elise? This is Blue and all his friends, and we're heading off to Breeze. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
It was very good. Very good song.
Unlocked.
You do, yes. You will have inspiration when we come back to it. And then you also summoned your faithful friend,
Yes, my old guy.
Hawkwind Phoenix, a elderly hawk. I say elderly, sort of like
We're old friends.
yeah, you're old friends. You've known him for a long time. You had a friendly catch up as he appeared. Very eager to get back to his family.
Yeah.
But
just seen him.
he did offer to take a message to your father.
He did indeed. I was very appreciative of that.
And yeah, so he passed the message on. Outside the tavern, you guys met up as Blan seemed to want to get away from the tavern quite quickly this morning. So he sort of like hurried you through breakfast, got you right, took you out of the tavern, locked up, and then rushed off north, off the tracks. Kaya, two people were a bit suspicious. I think it's going to be an ongoing theme of you, Kaya, thinking people are sus as fuck. I think it's the way I described it. I think it's the technical term that we go with. As you and Saber decided to tail this man, thinking he was up to no good, as Z, Blue, and Castor went to go and pay your final respects to Enid and Phil. Z, you passed on the message to Phil about Alex's true wounds, where you told him that you would try and get to the bottom, as a party, you would try and get to the bottom of what happened to Alex and make sure nobody else also came into or had problems. Saber and Kaya following this man. You tracked him north where he headed into a small wood and up to a small shack where he went inside. Kaya, you went round the back of the house as Saber went into the front, trying to see in through the windows of this small shack. And Saber, your I want to say your stealthing ability was not great that day as you peered through the flower bed, or made your way through the flower bed, to look up into the window and clock eyes with Blan, who, very disgruntled, came outside with a knife to confront you. Kaya, you snuck inside the house, didn't you? Through the back door. And you found a very simple abode, is the best way I can describe it. You had a quick snoop for his belongings as Saber was being confronted from outside by a knife-wielding extremely pissed off bartender.
Yeah.
And you found 2 books that were of interest: A Dummy's Guide to Tavern Keeping and How to Charm a Crush was the 2 books that you found in there. Before you snuck right out, you snuck back out the back door, and Saber managed to get away without being stabbed.
Yes.
You guys then hurried back to meet everyone at the Dusty Trumpet, where you headed off to Breeze. And we began the long journey through the woods to get there.
On the road again.
Exactly.
Just like yesterday.
And this...
Yeah, he was just the bartender though.
You did have a knife.
He did, well, yeah, but who doesn't have a knife in their kitchen?
Did you open those books? Maybe they had something inside.
Had to summon a bugbear.
Yes.
On this journey to Breeze, a game was invented. A game that will stick with us until the end of time, I think. A game invented by Saber and Blue called Punch Buggy, whereby it's a simple game where if you see a cart, you would punch the other person and shout "Punch Buggy." Along this road, you were constantly keeping an eye out for these carts. Doesn't really matter what type of cart, if it's a working cart or a wreckage of a cart.
Well, it didn't matter then.
It was still a cart.
If it was the same cart from yesterday.
Yeah. As you made your way through, and you did see a cart coming the other way, being pulled by 2 dwarves, which the sign read, "The Logs and Lead Limited." Seeing new customers, they pulled over, and you did a little bit of shopping. When they jumped off the cart, they pulled a little lever on the side of the cart, which seemed to expand it. You heard like loads of clinking of mechanical locks and bolts moving and things as the whole cart sort of expanded to reveal a full forge, anvil, and sort of like what I can only describe as on the roadside sort of meat, like where you would buy a burger and things like that. So like a pit stop in the middle of a lay-by. Convenience store on wheels, basically.
Roadside services, yeah.
Yeah. So you went through the wares. Z, you bought some unidentified strange potions from the dwarves who sort of seemingly wanted to get rid of them quick, as it sort of like was part of a trade from a previous dealings. Blue, you bought some iron and some iron powder. Spell components, yeah. Kaya, you tried to buy some fancy arrows, some sort of different looking hunting arrows. But when you handed over your coin, the dwarves refused to take it, claiming it was fake. Castor bought a couple of these arrows, some normal, and some that seemed to be enchanted with fire. Whilst trading with the dwarves, they offered to buy Castor's new shield for 2,500 gold pieces, but he refused. They try again, trying to tempt Castor into handing over the objects, but he continued to refuse. They even tried to flash the holy symbol of Tyr towards him in attempt to buy it.
We're in the same club.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Saber, you asked the traders about the Hand of Undying Justice.
Yeah.
A priceless relic belonging to the god Tyr, but unfortunately the dwarves had never heard of it. But they did say that the majority of the ancient crypts and dungeons on Papaya had already been looted.
Yeah.
Because nobody's been able to do anything for go anywhere else for 250 years. Most of the crypts and things have either been discovered and looted, or just there's nothing else to do as an adventurer. Whilst the dwarves were drooling over Castor's shield and Saber chatting about this hand, this gauntlet, what did Kaya do?
I was maybe a little bit sneaky.
Just a little bit?
Maybe just a little bit sneaky. And mayhaps done a little bit of borrowing.
Liberal word.
Liberation.
Liberation. As Kaya, you stole some of the arrows that the dwarves refused to sell you.
Including a flaming arrow.
Yeah, including
arrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody saw you do it. and they weren't too happy about it, were they? As Castor spotted you stealing, but didn't say anything. He didn't say anything to you. He
Kill
just
a guard, but you can't steal an arrow.
it's in the religious text of Tyr.
He's been told, he's had a good telling off, and he's on his good books now.
You relieved the dwarves of some of the arrows. They had too many. They had too many.
They weren't using them.
What if they'd have fallen in the car? They set on fire.
Yeah.
What the hell with them? That's a fire hazard.
Yep.
Exactly.
You finished off trading, and Blue, you had a quick chat to the horse.
Oh yeah, good guy.
Remember what his name was?
He had a name, yeah.
He was a very posh horse.
He's shiny as the fourth.
Oh,
Shiny as the fourth.
well done. He was a very posh horse. He told you he was the son of a racing horse from Breeze. He gave you a little bit of a. He said Breeze was a very nice town, very clean, very nice town. So you had a good glowing reference from the horse. You carried on. Nothing happened for the rest of the day. You sort of travelled till nightfall. As the weather took a turn for the worse and began to rain, where you spent an additional day trudging through the rain. At the end of the day, you decided that you would push on through this to get out of this rain. As it got heavier and heavier, you thought, well, we'd rather get to Breeze and try and get there quickly. So you pushed on through the night, travelling into the night. As the light came up on the next day, Blue, whilst at night you casted Longstrider on Sabre before turning into your horse and lifting Castor off his feet, and sort of kept doing that as much as you could to try and get the party there a little bit quicker as you guys rushed behind. Exhausted as the light began to come up, you crested the hill and saw Breeze for the first time. This large city or large town built on a rocky sort of cliff top. It had its own. It was about sort of 20 feet rock, like on top of a rock. This lovely town. You saw lights coming from it, and down the hill you saw this farm. As riders approached you on horseback, galloping extremely quickly towards you. Z, what was your first instinct?
Ignite my sword and
Ignite the sword, stand in the way as these horses ran around you. These 13 riders, all dressed in sort of like a light blue-green colour, with a symbol on their chest of a cloud being pushed sideways. This was on their shields, these diamond-shaped shields, and on their armour as well. As they rode past you, you got a glimpse of the head rider. That seemed to be somebody in charge as they charged past you in the direction of Grook.
Wonder why they're going there. That's probably not foreshadowing for anything later.
We'll just ignore it.
And that is where we ended session 7 on the top of this hill approaching Breeze. Session 8. You guys trudged down the hill, sopping wet, very muddy at this point, looking a bit tired, having spent all night walking and running. You came down to one of the farmhouses to smell the lovely smell of porridge coming from an open door, and saw a slightly pot-bellied man with a flat cap sat with he's putting on he's got a vest on, he's putting on a farmer's coat, and he's trying to put boots on his feet as you guys approached, where you met Farmer Leandown, Crag Leandown, who, after a quick conversation, offered you guys inside for some food if Blue and Z and Castor would go and plough the field for him. So Sabre and Kaya, you got a lovely toasty warm in front of the fire, had a lovely couple of bowls of porridge, as Z, Blue and Castor went off into the fields to plough the field as the rain began to stop. So yeah, Saber and Kaya, you went into Craggling Down's farmhouse. You had a couple of bowls of porridge, and you guys talked about the magical jewels and gained some more insight into that. Where he told you that each of the combatants wears a magical ring that prevents them from taking any damage themselves and getting sustaining any injuries. And the idea is that you can cast spells against each other to break those rings. Once the rings are broken, whoever's left standing wins. And it's normally fought pairs. He also told you he loves to gamble on this, but had to do it in a hushed tone because his wife was also in the next room.
She didn't write that.
No. He also tells you that the entry fee is normally around 200 gold pieces the last time he checked for anyone who wanted to enter into the competition.
We didn't have money like that. We lost it all at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. He also told you about some places of interest inside Breeze. One being the Plainsail Museum, where you should visit if you have time. And he also tells you that the town is run by 3 people, an elf, a human, and a halfling. He told you about a tavern, the Cod Inn, where he said, again in hushed tones, that it runs fistfights in the back of the tavern, or outside the back of the tavern, which you can gamble on and fight in if you want to earn some coin, before he was told off by his wife. Kaya, you also asked about the symbol on the rider's chest, and he told you it was the sigil of Breeze, so you knew those riders were coming from Breeze. And then he also told you about another tavern, the Glinting Seastone Hotel, which seemed to be an upper class, very posh and proper tavern to go to.
A hoity-toity place.
Yeah, a hoity-toity place. Yes. Z and Castor, you and Blue went to go and plough the field. Z, you talked to Blue, asking if Blue was running from something, before telling him that he shouldn't run away, and you're stronger together, and he's now part of the tribe. It was a very touching little moment between the two of you. Before Castor, seemingly oblivious to the human emotion, told you to just get on with it, and Blue turned into a horse to pull the plough the rest of the field.
Could have probably started with that.
You picked up the rest of the party, headed off into Breeze. You decided to, instead of going to the west and going in that way, you decided to go towards the harbour, following the signpost towards the harbour, where you saw these sloping lawns and this stone wall with a metal fence that seemed to just block the entranceway to what looked like a giant mansion set among some trees. You saw this elven man wearing a lovely dark green suit.
Yeah,
stood at the entranceway. Castor spotted this straight away, as the elf was wearing it seemed to be wearing some sort of like extra what can only be described as like an aura around him that was sort of slightly glinting in the sunlight. And Castor spotted it as this guy was wearing glass armour, an elven, very hard to make elven armour, very rare, and he was also holding a glass spear. You had a quick chat with him. He told you this was the entrance to the Plainsail Museum. He also told you that Arlo Plainsail was unfortunately too busy to attend any tours today, but he took your names and you will come back the next day to have your private tour around the museum. And then you headed off into town. Again, Kaya, as you sort of walked away, your wrist got extremely itchy again, and ducking away from the party, you saw your blink dog running towards the museum on your skin. Blue, you almost spotted this. You spotted Kaya being a bit shady at this point, but didn't spot what Kaya was looking at. Eventually you got to the harbour, and so on this route you began to see people of all races coming up and down, holding baskets of things as you approach the harbour to see a busy, bustling harbour. Fishing boats coming in, sort of stalls outside selling fish and other equipment for fishing. You saw that there was a large tavern with a picture of a giant cod hanging from a sign. As you saw a half-orc throwing somebody out of the tavern who was extremely inebriated before slamming the door shut behind him and going inside.
Giving him the mummy's rush.
Yes. Saber and Castor, you went in to inquire about some beds for the evening and also to inquire about the fights, where you were introduced to Ra, the half-orc bartender. He sorted you the rooms out and put Castor down for a fight in the evening. Z, you went to the tavern as well, leaving Blue outside and Kaya.
And Ra's jaw dropped.
It did. Ra began a series of flirty. We tried flirting with you heavily.
Yeah, the copy of that charm book.
It must have been tucked under the bar somewhere.
It's issued to all bartenders.
As he signed you also up for a fight in the evening. Knowing you would have to wait till nightfall, you guys decided that you were going to go into Breeze and do a little bit of exploring before maybe catching an early night, or after going for a fight in the evening, or getting a nap in before. And as you headed into town, you noticed a couple of things. The architecture of the town was very elven, historically elven. The art, like all the wooden facade or facade of the buildings, was all seemed to be just all very, very much elven. But the majority of the population living here, as you walk through the town, was human, which is very strange. You would normally have human architecture in a human city. It was a bit strange. As you walk through, you began to come into contact with more shops selling all these magical, wondrous things, and people moving and hustling, bustling. Before a small man in a chef's hat ran out to Blue and proceeded to tell you he knew it was your birthday. Run back into the bakery that he was in front of to come back with a donut, a large donut with a hole in the middle, covered it in lots of little different coloured, hundreds of thousands. You ripped hat in half, shoved half into your mouth, to be overcome with a cacophony of flavours, but giving yourself some temporary hit points and removing the exhaustion from you as you shared the rest out and also removed the exhaustion from the rest of the party.
I left a little nibble just in case. So delicious.
You stumbled across. Z, you wanted to find a apothecary.
You did it!
Inspiration for myself.
Please don't.
Awesome. You stumbled across the central market space for the Breeze to see a number of different stalls being set up. These wooden, they're sort of back in fours, and then people can walk around, and then there's some on the outside. So people are can set up a trade point for the day, and then don't have to buy shop space. Kaya and Saber, you spotted some suspicious activity, some sus as fuck. You are I think you need to come up with a detective duo name. I'll let you guys think of that.
Yeah.
But you spotted a skimpily dressed tiefling woman distracting a couple of guards. And as you surveyed the scene, you saw some hooded figures approaching a jewellery stand. You quickly rushed to the stand as they began stealing all the jewellery. Yeah. Saber, you killed one of them straight off with an arrow through the neck as they ran away.
Yeah.
As the world around you became silent. as you went to I think Kaya went to cast a spell, and nothing came out of her mouth as she just sort of pointed and nothing happened. As you saw the tiefling woman staring at you, Kaya, before she disappeared. You then killed the second... you downed the second gentleman. Apprehended, yeah, that's a... Violently apprehended the second man.
Stop resisting!
As Castor ran forward to save his life as he was bleeding out, he was then promptly arrested by some guards. And Castor went back to save the second man, who unfortunately had already died through an arrow through the neck from Sailor. Castor then broke the neck of that person, claimed that he had killed the
Stolen conscious one.
Yeah. Why? He then broke the neck of the already deceased to save. I think it was probably to save you the pain of having murder on your
on my conscience. Yeah.
No more tears.
Z, you spotted a child standing on a piece of jewelry as you guys collected up the spilled contents of the bags, and paid the child 5 gold pieces in exchange. 2 gold pieces in exchange for the jewelry. Who ran off into the crowd, delighted, and you got this ring back from the child. You gave all the jewelry back to the jeweler, who promptly gave you some coin in gratitude. He each gave Saber and Kaya 30 gold pieces, and then he also gave 5 gold pieces to Z for returning the ring. He then tried to sell you a magical item to Saber, who was sold on the idea of this the Ring of Rejuvenation.
Yes.
Which, when attuned to, would no longer make you thirsty.
Yes.
But he couldn't show you what it did because it didn't work like that. So, but he wanted to sell it to you for the simple price of 50 gold pieces.
Yeah.
And you wanted that ring.
I was going to get it.
But the rest of you spotted straight through the flawed sales pitch. Blue. There's a combination of the two. Blue, you cast detect magic. And you saw that the ring was not magical.
It's just a bit of metal, isn't it?
You then carried on into the town, where you hang on, I've lost myself here. Yes, sorry, I'm just reading paragraphs of stuff. That's it. Castor passed a woman who very kindly siphoned the blood off of him with a little bit of magic, because he was covered in the blood of the killed thief. Yeah. Going through the town, then you came across a bookshop called Spines and Sorcery, which you were told by the jeweler was Fanlaw, the Elven Town Council member's shop. So you proceeded to go inside. It's a bit of a strange sign because the sign kept flashing in different languages outside. It kept changing into different. So it said Spines and Sorcery, but in different languages, and it just kept moving. And the storefront was like you could just see into like what looked like a very dusty bookshop. When you entered through the door, it was extremely large, books upon books, thousands of volumes of all different shapes and sizes, some lighting up and flashing. There was bangs coming from a distant corner of the room as you approached the counter to see a slender elven man with blonde hair swept back, in a 3-piece silver suit with little stars in grey, sort of on top of the suit, and holding walking with a black cane. And he introduced himself as Fanlaw. Where you wanted to chat to him about a couple of things. So he summoned darkness to surround the party to stop you guys from being overheard. You began to turn the troubles in Miley's, but he already knew. And then you told him,
Robbie.
He he told you that he'd intercepted a letter to the king written by a Castor Biscuit, and took that letter and not forwarded it on to the king. What did you guys think was going on at that point?
Oh, we thought he was sneaky.
Shady dealings,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Cool.
We were mad.
He decided that he sent some of his town guard to investigate the attack, which you then put 2 and 2 together and got 7, as you realised the guards that you saw in the morning were obviously leaving 2 miles. He told you they'd be planning to send... you also told him that the totems were broken, and that's how you got to the Isle of Rapire. And he told you that he'd already requested somebody from the capital that would come and investigate these totems to make sure they were safe for people to actually go through. He then told you the stories of where people had tried to leave when they first sealed the island, and people tried to portal out and were cut in half, and people that tried to disappear to other planes were also killed immediately upon trying to do so. Anyone that tried to pass the totems by boat were just fried. In a similar light to what you described, Saber, when the boat blew up.
Just imagine the line of fish and birds around that section of the water. Just freshly cooked.
You also told Fanlaw about Alex's death and the true story about it and how you'd found him on this X, which left him. You saw Fanlaw was confused and concerned. You also asked him about the legend of Castor Biscuit.
Yes, I did.
Which he obviously told you he knew of because he found the letter.
Yeah.
He dropped the darkness around you guys, and you guys shot for a couple of books. Z, you picked up a book of simple potions and buffs. Thaniel sold that to you. He also offered you a little deal. Everyone, he offered you a little deal. He offered you 2-for-1 rate on your coin from outside of Papaya. But he did have one little catch to the trade, which was that you couldn't tell anybody where you'd come from. You couldn't tell anybody that you were off the Isle. The 4 of you did, except for Blue. You didn't exchange your coin.
It's my money. I'm going home at some point. Why do you do that?
I think I kept 10.
I think I exchanged all mine.
Yeah, you exchanged varying amounts, but I know Blue didn't exchange any.
I was just thinking, we need to get into this magic tournament.
Yeah.
So we need 200 gold. And so I thought, the more I get, the better.
Yeah.
So
I also thought the more you get.
Exactly.
So thank you for doing
That's we found a loophole anyway.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to at some point.
Blue's got a big money guy, so he didn't care about that. He just wanted his stuff. Mine's a loophole.
Yeah.
You finished up the transaction as a halfling woman walked into the store. She had a large scar down one side of her face and was wearing sort of white flowing clothes, leather trousers, and a bandolier full of knives. And she sort of hung back away from you guys, resting against her back to a bookshelf. Fanlaw then, sort of as he noticed her, said that he had other dealings to do, and politely asked you to leave as he was going to shut the shop at this point.
What a very polite thing to do. We should all respect that and leave very politely.
Yeah, Blue, you did. So did Saber and Castor.
Yeah. We did.
Z, Kyle, what did you do at this point?
Well, I was interested in the shady dealings of this person and decided to make myself invisible.
Yeah. You drank one of the potions you got from the dwarves, which turned you invisible, and you snuck sort of as the party went towards the entrance. You sort of ducked behind a bookshelf, necked the potion, and stood there waiting to listen in. Kyle, what did you do?
I want to say, Misty stepped into behind a thing.
You went outside and tried to Misty step back into the shop.
Yeah.
Clever idea. Unfortunately, Fanlaw's shop was magically enchanted, and you collided with the glass from the outside before falling flat on your back, hurting yourself a little bit.
But you hit in the window.
You were peering as you sort of back against the wall, peered round to look at the bookshelf to come face to face with Thandor, who was staring eye level at you, and proceeded to tell you where the exit was. You left the shop and sort of had to sort of keep reminding the party where you were, as you were still invisible at this point. As you headed off to further into the town, as like the dark sort of light began to disappear, and saw this large tower coming from the centre of town. This large stone tower that extended up into the sky, with Aarakocra flying in and out of from the ceiling. Looking in through the giant doors of this tower, you saw what I can only describe as a banking hall. People in suits sat behind glass screens, and people queued in front of it, taking in post. Basically, you decided that you were going to write another letter, Blue.
Yep.
So you and Castor went inside. You wrote the letter, and then Castor rewrote it.
And big fingers.
And you posted another letter seemingly identical to the one Castor had written, except
that Thandor intercepted.
Yeah, that Thandor intercepted. So you tried again to send a letter to the king. You also helped a woman who dropped all her belongings in the banking hall, and you helped pick them up, which was very sweet of you, Blue. And then as you decided to go back to the cod inn, at this point the evening was coming in, and it was time to
fight night.
It was time for fight night. On your way back, though, you saw somebody exiting Thandor's shop.
Mm-hmm.
The halfling woman. And the suspicious mind of Kaya, Saber, and I think at this point Z, thought it would be a good idea to tail the halfling woman.
Yeah.
You tailed her for a little while, very, very stealthily, until she spotted you
Sneaky.
and dashed down an alleyway. Saber, you jumped, you misty stepped into this onto
Rooftop.
a building rooftop
Yeah.
to see down this alley. As Kaya and everyone rushed around the corner and was greeted by a knife whizzing past your ear, as she was stood behind a crate holding some knives in her hand. She told you it was very rude to follow people you don't know, and after some back and forth, eventually she snuck off through the alleyway, knives drawn the entire time. Saber, you spotted her going into the Glinting Sea Stone. As she disappeared from view, and you were, very nearly missing an ear, Kaya. You guys headed back to the cod inn, and you decided to get yourself a drink because you knew the fights. Ryan already told you that fights don't happen until later on in the evening. As you found the busy bar, you saw another halfling whipping around the bar collecting glasses, who introduced herself very quickly as Pickle, the barmaid, as she rushed around trying to collect glasses. You guys spotted a table and thought it would be a good idea to grab a table, maybe get some food in you. As the bar filled up, Kaya was then. Is she there?
Yes.
She just come back.
Oh, she's coming back.
Yeah, I was just thinking I might need to jump out.
It's got cold again in here, isn't it? Boiling last night. I love it. Kaya, you were very rudely bumped in the back, weren't you, in the cod inn?
Well, it just wasn't very nice, you know?
It wasn't. As somebody rushed into you, knocking you flying, you spilt your drink. As two ginger-haired brothers, one looking very scarred, had a very scarred face, the other looking a lot younger, were stood there laughing at you. Z, you tried to make yourself away, get yourself to them as quickly as you could through the crowd. As Kaya, you charmed one of these brothers. And you made a new best friend.
Well, I just think it's important to teach people about their manners. He wasn't a bad boy, really.
The confused other brother, looking at he suddenly, as his brother suddenly apologised to you, looking very confused. Blue, you rushed in and shoulder barged him to the floor. When he stood up, he got real close to you and put something sharp into your ribs. As Ra just shouted over the top of the bar, "Right, that's it, everyone out!" As he instructed you to get into the fighting pits. And that's where we ended session 8. Cool. So we move on to session 9. Blue is taken into the fighting ring along with the other ginger-haired brother who is announced his last name is Fenwick. And his brother is currently residing with Kaya. Kaya sat next to her on the edge of the ring. As people begin to form a circle around you in this giant sandpit out the back of the Cod Inn. Ra comes out with a wooden box wrapped around his neck with a leather strap and proceeds to start taking bets as the fighters prepare. Saber, you put 20 gold pieces on Blue to win. With Castor, put 5 on the other man. As you stared at each other across the pit, Blue, you tried to convince this Fenwick man to apologise to Kaya.
Be a very simple thing. Don't have to fight, because I could destroy you, no offense. You little small ginger boy. But it's very rude. Just out of there with your brother, he seems alright now.
He took off his jacket to reveal sort of a very slender man, but would seem to have some sort of muscle to him. As he took off his jacket, he turned to the crowd and asked if anyone would fight with him, as this man was Blue was obviously bigger than him, and it would be an unfair fight to fight by himself. A dwarf stepped forward, an old sailor hand, but Castor very quickly convinced the other dwarf to fight him in the next bout, leaving Blue and this other brother to fight each other. Ra explained the rules that there was no magic, just pure strength in fists, and anything goes except for magical weapons. As the fight started, with the Fenwick brother flicking a load of sand in Blue's face to try and blind him before throwing a few punches. Blue threw a few punches and got too close to him as he pulled something sharp and stabbed Blue in the ribs. Ra, distracted by a bet, as a couple more punches were thrown before Z ran in and drop kicked the brother. Ra stopped the fight, gave everyone their money back for betting, and barred this man for life before kicking him out of the Cod Inn.
I didn't
property.
get my money.
You didn't get your money. Castor and Candor then had a fight, this other dwarf, and after a few good punches thrown from both parties, Candor seemed to fall to his age as he quickly became winded. Castor and Candor just disappeared into the tavern after this fight, having a few drinks and a chat about what happened on Propia since Candor had been alive. Z. Ra approached you and said that nobody had put their name forward to fight you, so proceeded to say that he would fight you, and you accepted. And again, a few very good fighting. There was a portion of the fight where you managed to get him in an armbar, but he eventually broke out. And the fight concluded with Z picking Ra up above your head and dropping him on your knee, on his back to the knee. Which ended the fight, and you won. You beat Ra. And you guys headed back into the tavern. Nobody else wanted to fight. You guys went inside. You won some money betting. Kaya, you were given the betting box by Ra when this fight was happening, and somebody managed to dupe you out of some coin. And you sent your new friend, your best friend now, off after this man to try and catch him to bring back the money as he disappeared through the crowd. You headed back inside. You all got very drunk that evening. Castor gained some insight about the dwarves and how they seem to seal themselves away from Papaya after the instances with Elvic and Rufus. Kaya, you sat down with Pickle, had a lovely chat with Pickle, who told you that she works this in the evenings and mornings. She helps her father out in the daytime, and she told you she was a druid. Actually, wild shaped into a mouse onto the table, and then began to eat some cheese, and then wild shaped back. She also told you that Ra didn't really like it when she did it in the pub, so managed to do it while he wasn't looking. Excuse me. Oh, that's it. Blue and Sabre. After Castor's win inside the tavern, you guys went round and spread the legend of Castor Biscuit.
He did.
He only breathes 5 breaths a day.
Yeah.
He does. He was bitten by a snake, and 5 days later the snake died.
As you pass the legend around to anybody who would listen,
And everybody that would.
Especially then.
Blue, you turned into a wolf and began howling along to the bard that was playing in the corner, and Pickle turned a little pink at the as you sort of caught her eye. The night went on, and as Ra cleared the tavern out for the evening, you guys stayed up and had a little bit of a nightcap. You gleaned some info about the other council members talking to Ra, so you learned about a bit more about Famlor. You also got the name of the halfling woman, Loco Loft. She runs the protection for the town, so she used to run the count. She was the head of the guard, but now she just runs the guard from a backseat perspective. And you also heard about Plod Oka, a human man, but Ra hadn't seen him for a while, didn't really know much about him, didn't have any dealings with him, but you also found out that he hated Famlor. Not to the point where he would he would like talk to him, but he didn't like him very much. Too prim and proper for his liking. You guys went to bed, had a lovely evening, and you woke up to a hearty breakfast of sausages, eggs, bacon and tomatoes made by Pickle. She also provided porridge and fruit for Blue. And you guys set off to the Plain Sail Museum for the guided tour. On the way to the museum, Kaya, your tattoo got very active on your arm. You managed to hide it well, but Blue got very suspicious.
Well, she keeps just, what are you doing? Everyone else is walking and you're just like...
You passed through the metal fence of guarded by this elf, and saw these sloping lawns again, and were greeted by a man. As you entered the large driveway and got to this museum, you were greeted by a very plump, balding elf, which I think one of you noticed was very strange for an elf. I think it might have been Kaya, because of the fact that elves don't need to, you've got very high metabolisms. And put 2 and 2 together, meaning this guy is eating way too much for it.
Bit of a glutton.
Yeah, bit of a glutton. As he introduced you to Arlo Plainsail, a very elderly elf with a waistcoat made of all manner of colours. And he invited you in, where he showed you a number of artifacts and wondrous items. He showed Z a clay jug encrusted with emeralds that produced any liquid you desired, within reason. He showed Sabre an arrow vapor, which when you tried to pick up, just melted through your hand. He played a harp in the corner of the room, putting Z and Blue to sleep. And also gave Castor a small bell to ring, which when Castor did ring, opened everything in sight, including drawers, cupboards, bookcases, flies, buttons, anything that it could open, it opened.
Your mind.
Yes. He continued to show you these artifacts, including a red and black handled sword, which burst into light when Z grabbed it. And an orb that would float above the party and provide light wherever they were. during all this, he talked about his time on Papaya, saying that he got stuck here after the event which he calls the closing of the gates. He'd been here for 250 years stuck on this island, so he created this museum. You also noticed as you went through each of these rooms with these artifacts, there was a number of armours on stands in each of the rooms that Saber, you were sure moved. One of them moved, but couldn't spot it doing it again.
Yeah.
You then entered the. He wanted to show you his most treasured artifact, and seemingly stepped through a locked door before you heard clicking from the other side as he unlocked it from the inside to see a glass cabinet in the centre of the room, surrounded by bookshelves on all four walls and suits of armour in the corners. This glass-rented cabinet containing the artifact, this amulet that Kaya had been seemingly told to take. When you tried to touch it, Arlo told you that it showed you a scorch mark on the floor. Told you it was so dangerous that the last person who tried to steal it, which was a few days ago, is now on the floor as a scorch mark. Saber, then you pulled Arlo to one side to ask him about questions about some books. As Kaya, you reached out again to take the amulet. As soon as your fingers touched it, the suits of armours took steps off the platforms as you put it around your neck, and you felt the warmth on your chest, as if this thing had been worn by somebody the entire time. As the suits of armour attacked you guys, and Arlo disappeared, shouting thief. So, session 10. These suits of armour tried to get to Kaya, seemingly in which way possible. Arlo disappeared from the room shouting thief, as you guys fought these suits of armour. Z, you raged, swinging your greatsword as quickly as you possibly could, trying to defeat these armour, but your attacks didn't seem to do much damage at all. Caster compelled one of the suits to duel him rather than take on Kaya, as you guys rushed around the room firing spells off at these suits of armour. Kaya, you tried to stab one with a blade, and when you did, a puff of black smoke came out the end of your blade and put the suit of armour straight down. At the same point, Saber and Caster stood next to Kaya, felt your magic disappear from your fingertips.
I felt so weak.
You did feel so weak. Kaya then rushed around the room trying to stab all the other suits of armour,
Picked on.
putting them down as quickly as possible, but also made everyone's magic disappear from the room. As you watch the books that were on the bookshelves, the fluttering and things, stop.
Took me way too long to work out what was happening.
I think all of us were a little bit lost.
Swinging at ghosts.
Z, you kicked through the door to see Arlo on the other side of the room, in the corridor, looking very ashen-faced, and his only question was, how are you still alive? As you proceeded to tell him about the amulet. Kaya, you told him you'd had visions of this amulet for days before you actually came to Papaya, and upon telling this, he ushered you into his dining hall to discuss certain bits and bobs. He told you that he'd acquired the amulet from years ago from a sort of crypt breaker, someone that would go down and discover these wondrous items. He told you found it on near Death's Glaze, Death's Glaze, far east from Breeze, where it was legend that the Weatherspite, where a great battle between the Weatherspite brothers happened. He paid the sum of 100,000 gold pieces for the amulet. He said it was extremely difficult to transport because everybody who seemed to come into contact with the amulet would die in weird occurrences, either straight away or just drop dead, like burst into flames, heart attack, turn to ash, just different manner. Anyone who touched that amulet died, which is why he was so surprised that Kaya has it round her neck.
As well.
With a nudie.
Castor at this point was also fending off attempts from Arlo to buy his shield. As you carry on talking about what you were going to do now in terms of the amulet, and you came up with Arlo came up with the idea of drawing up a magical contract, whereby that Kaya would have would now be in possession of the amulet, and your bloodline would keep possession of the amulet as long as the amulet chose you. Mm-hmm. In return, you were supposed to keep him updated with any goings on with the amulet for research purposes only. Mm-hmm. And that if you didn't, he would send mercenaries to collect the amulet from you. When you signed the contract, he spotted your last name, which is
Gold.
I don't remember. I don't even think I wrote it down. Oh, no.
DM help.
That's right, I'm bringing it up you.
I don't know either.
I might not, to be fair. I'm pretty sure I wrote it down.
I don't think I did.
Oh no, I didn't. I typed it all up.
The person with a last name.
Yeah.
Fancy
Well,
last name.
Yeah, you had a fancy
Fancy.
last name, and he got very impressed by it, knowing the family. Not directly or any descendants, but he knew of you, which forced the other party members to question you how powerful your family was.
Like an heiress or something? What?
Exactly.
Shady with those answers as well.
Always sidestepping any question.
It's always scratchy.
Arlo also gave you, when you were talking about the Battle Forge, he decided to sponsor you guys so you could enter the Battle Forge as the quickly appointed Wayfarers.
Yes.
So he signed you. He told Theodore, his manservant, to go and drop off the coin. As you proceeded to tell him about the fact that you weren't from Papaya, he got very excited and drafted a letter which he read out in front of you as he sort of wrote the letter. He sort of mouthed most of the letter out to you, where he has summoned a ship to pick him up, sent it to his father's his father's last known address, assuming his father is probably dead by this point, to come and collect him and all his belongings so he can finally get off Papaya. You were then entrusted with delivering this letter Z to the Postal Guild. Blue, at this point, you got bored. You went snooping around inside of his, as a mouse underneath all the furniture. You found a little pouch with 8 gold in it.
Some goodies.
Yeah.
He sponsored you, and so you guys. You guys left Arlo to it. So he began to give instructions to his servants to begin packing his artifacts and things as you left. Blue, after the name dropping and sort of talking about Kaya and Blue and also Arlo when he told you how old he was, you got very confused at the fact that you thought Kaya and Sable were both in their mid-20s, but actually they were over 100 years old each.
You just both look so great. And it's a lot. Birds can't fly and old people are young. What is this world?
That's the other thing Arlo told you, is he was also from a town on Bulaf Isle, which is an isle that a couple of you had already been to and some of you hadn't been to, but it was off Papaya. That was his homeland. You guys decided that another night in a cod inn would have been a good idea, so you headed back there sort of mid-afternoon. When you came to the tavern, you see that the tavern is extremely busy. As Ra has rushed off his feet, Saber, Blue and Cass have jumped behind the bar to begin serving drinks. Ra, he flirted with the UZ for a little bit as you booked rooms, managed to get a little cheaper rate. Before asking why it was so busy in here, and Ra told you that Pickle never turned up for her shift in the tavern. Blue, you inquired to why does it what is this a regular occasion or is this normal or is this to find that she's never normally late. She said she's only maybe a couple of moments late, but never this late. As Blue tells you, or so he tells you where she's likely to be. She said she helps her dad out, helping in his workshop. She also likes to play by the harbour and change into swimming creatures for the kids, like to entertain the kids. So you decided that you go and find her. Z, Blue, and Kaya all left, leaving Saber and Casa to tend man the bar. When I say man the bar, it was serve everybody in sight, and then when it quietened down, drink lots.
Yeah, we did terribly. I did particularly bad at bartending.
Yeah,
I remember.
Past experience.
just Saber and his really good rolls.
As you guys exited the tavern, you met Candor again, who told you that he saw Pickle heading off in the direction of of the woods nearby, being escorted by somebody wearing a black cloak, pushing a handcart. You guys ducked into the tavern, grabbed Saber and Castor, and rushed off in the direction of the woods. In doing so, investigated the floor to see footsteps of Pickle and another large humanoid creature on these cart tracks. And that is where we started to record the sessions. So, if you've kept on watching this so far, you should now be able to rewatch the videos and get yourselves up to speed to where the party are now.
And if you're just starting, here is a bit of a recap for the bit that we did record.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, so we did it a bit back to front, but unfortunately we got so far in and we're like, we should be recording these sessions. They're too good not to. I really hope you guys watch these and if you're new to D&D, get hooked. If you're already experts at D&D, then I just hope you enjoy these sessions. So we'll see you in the next session then.